If you've gone past 3 days and your house has not sold in those areas, you're overpriced. People are tired of waiting. Now they're convinced that we're not going to have those rates again. In Birmingham, the closings can happen in June, but pretty much the place shuts down in June and July.
Well, welcome to the Beyond Wealth podcast, Genny Williams. I finally got you here. This is awesome.
I'm so excited to be here.
I mean, honestly, so a long time ago, well, I say a long time ago, several years ago when I started real estate and we're in the same brokerage, you're kind of a part of the X team, which is you're kind of a team lead on that. I met you via Zoom and you were kind of giving some information out, helping agents, all that kind of stuff. And I was a little starstruck. And you're like this boss lady. You're like, your reputation precedes yourself. I was like, Genny is amazing. And I was on this Zoom. And now to have like you in the podcast studio and we're talking like face to face, I'm like, whew, whole nother level. So I'm honored that you would be here.
That is very sweet.
What strikes me is now we've had a lot of interactions face to face and conversations, and
all right, you know me now.
Yeah, I know you now. Like you're not like this rock star anymore, you know. And your humility, you have always made yourself available to help other agents, and you're accessible to people, and you're an encourager, and you want other people to win. And I just thought about it. I was like, just what an amazing legacy you have in this industry and with your community and the people you help. And so just super grateful for you to be in here.
Aww.
Talk about the Birmingham market.
Well, that makes my heart so happy that you see me. So thank you.
Yeah. I was talking to Jay, your husband, because we were at the training recently you put on, which thank you for that, because now I have my credits done.
Yeah, wipe it out of the way.
I was like, if I don't do this, then it's probably not going to happen, and I'll be like last minute, the night before, just clicking away, trying to get it done. But I was like, how does she do it? Like, how does she go? And he's like, well, honestly, she goes. And then she takes about a week and just crashes.
I do.
And then you like refuel and then you go back at it again. So you're just always helping other people. So I appreciate it.
Well, I try my best. So thank you. And, it's awesome working with people like you because you get things, on a higher level. And you have very specific needs whenever you reach out, and it's not a hand-holding situation. I love to hand-hold, but, in this business, we have to be independent. We have to have critical thinking skills, and you've got that. And so I can just feed you a little bit and you're fine. That's, you're smart.
Yeah.
And you know how to analyze situations and figure out problems because that's what we do.
Yeah.
Not everybody is built like you, Todd.
I appreciate that. No, there's been a few times where I've reached out and I'm like, I am stumped and, this is a place I haven't played in and I just need your help. And you've always like picked up the phone. So thank you.
Well, that's how we are as a community and should be, right? Like there are things that, that's what I love about real estate. Every day is different.
Yeah.
And there is a new problem to conquer every single day. And there are things that I'm not going to see in a year, right? And we have to have each other because I realized the other day somebody asked me about a mobile home and I'm like, gosh, in all of these years, I have never personally sold a mobile home.
Yeah.
No, I have sold some houses that are, $20,000.
They look like a mobile home.
They would have been proud to have been called a mobile home.
Yeah.
But I realized I don't have expertise in that.
Yeah.
I have not stumbled my way through that situation before. So that excites me, and that's so much fun when agents bring problems to me that I can learn from.
Yeah, that's great. I actually had someone reach out. Someone had recommended they know investments, they know flipping, reach out to Todd. But it was a mobile home, and I was like, hey, I can tell you about the investment side or how to flip and stuff, but I've never flipped a mobile home, let alone sold one. So that part of it, I don't know. And,
right.
I'll be honest with people. I'm like, I know what I know and I know what I don't know.
Me too.
So you've been in the industry for 27 years. Mm-hmm. And so you've had the ability to sell. Like you said, you've sold some really nice houses. You play in space now and a lot of Chelsea, a lot of high-end very nice homes, but you've also sold some investment stuff and some lower end stuff. You kind of have that depth of knowledge. And so I'm so grateful for you to come in, and we're going to talk about the market. And then we're also going to briefly, talk about kind of some of the shifts with the NAR and all these settlements happening and all that kind of stuff. Our world is shifting, I think, in some ways dramatically, and in some ways not at all.
Right.
There's at the end of the day, real estate needs to move, and people need to help you with that transaction.
Yes.
And so that's what we're here for.
I know. I'm excited about it.
Let's dig into the numbers. So we had a crazy, crazy shift. And in in March, we were in the negatives on listings. And in some of the sub-markets, we'll get into the sub-markets, they were dramatic. Overall, the listings in March were negative 3.62%. Come to April, we are up significantly. And I'm actually blown away by the stat, and I want to talk about it. So in 2023, we had 2,188 listings. And in 2024, we had 2,532. That is a 15.72% increase, which if you take last month's numbers, that shift even contrasts even more. Let's talk about it, because I'm not baffled, but I'm curious as to your thoughts why we've seen such a dramatic shift of inventory come on the market.
Well, I think people are tired of waiting. I think that now they're convinced that we're not going to have those rates again like we did. And we also have such massive appreciation that people have really built up equity. So now, knowing that the rates are going to come down, people are like, I better do something today to take advantage of all this equity and sell right now, because it's probably not going to get any higher. Mm-hmm. And we don't know that. We don't know if it's going to get higher. I mean, inventory's still low, right?
Right, yeah. In perspective of what inventory should be, we're still in a low inventory. Yes,
Right.
100%. Yeah.
But I'm even having those conversations right now as well, because my biggest regret would be I didn't sell when I needed to, because that is the realtor, right, in me as a homeowner, the investor in me as a homeowner. Like, the worst nightmare for me would be, wow, we missed that boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that boat, right, is right here before it's, I don't want to say sinking, because we're not going to have negative appreciation or anything like that.
No, I don't think in Birmingham, we don't see the swings,
No.
That other markets that are, I don't want to say more popular. I think Birmingham is popular, but it's not a, New York City in the sense of, or you see Austin. Austin saw dramatic increases and decreases.
Right.
And I think some of even COVID was, some of the pricing was just a correction, because I think we were undervalued.
Well, and we have always been a stable market. So even during the 2008, 2009 situations, we were not hurt nearly as bad as some of the other markets. So we have stayed fairly stable, because we do have people that are, constantly moving in. And like you said, we're not some crazed destination.
Yeah. The economies that are pulling in people are pretty stable. UAB is a great driving force.
Right.
People need medical. It's a very stable economic force in the city.
Right. I've got buyers that are moving here from Phoenix just because they want to be back in the South.
Yeah.
I've got buyers that are moving here from Dallas because they got a job at Regions.
Great.
I've got buyers moving here from Sarasota because they're doing a master's program at Sanford.
Yeah.
So we have so many things that pull people here.
Yeah.
But not in a crazed frenzy.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting you mentioned that about buyers. I've had several interactions. They're not my buyers. I wish they were. But several people this last month that have basically said that they just moved back to the South because one of the spouses had family here and they just want to get back home.
Right.
or want to raise kids here. So it definitely has this pull of a lot of people will move away to expand careers or do different things, but they come back sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes come back because this is home. This is a little bit more of the roots of where they want to raise their kids.
Well, and we did that. So, I grew up in South Mississippi in small town of Pascagoula, Gaucher area. And, we just wanted bigger opportunities for our kids. And that's why we decided to pick up an 01. And we had houses on the ground that Jay had built, and we left it all and came here to start over in an apartment.
Wow.
In a basement apartment. In a basement apartment. And yes. So just because we wanted more for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of kids, now not such a kid.
I know, right?
There is trailer. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit of a promo for Jake. So talk about it in the app a little bit, because I wanted him to get a little bit of a shout out.
Yeah, no,
I'm super excited because
absolutely.
he reached out to me yesterday and said that basically the app is like fully live and he's starting to get on some entry level like people. So tell me about it.
Yeah. So my son, Jacob, as you know, he is 25 and he joined us in the real estate business a couple of years ago. And, he is not crazy about the real estate business. And that's because Jacob is always happy-go-lucky. Everything works out in his favor. He just does not want to deal with people's emotional problems. And if you buy or sell real estate in really any capacity, you become a crazy person.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm an expert in crazy.
Yeah.
And you have to be crazy to be an expert in crazy.
You are dealing with a lot of, it's a high emotional transaction.
It is. It really is. Even on the investment side, even on the commercial side. When anybody says, well, I'm on the investment side, it's not emotional. Wrong.
Yeah.
Or I'm in commercial, I don't deal with people's emotions. Wrong.
Yeah.
Because everybody is emotionally attached to what they perceive as the value.
Right.
And, whenever someone else disagrees with that, it can become emotional. So Jacob doesn't really.
He's like, no go, but I'm going to build a company.
Yes. So for 7 years, I have begged my husband, Jay, because he's a home builder and flipper, and we have a ton of utility trailers in our yard. We are Sanford and Son, and luckily we live in a wooded area that nobody gets to see all of our junk, but we have trailers all over our yard.
Yeah.
So I kept saying, you really need to rent those out. You can't use more than one in a day.
Right.
And other people could probably use these, and they wouldn't want to invest in them. The man loves a trailer.
Yeah.
I mean, I can come home and I'm like, where did this horse trailer come from? Like, he buys stuff constantly and loves to work on them and paint them and redo them. And he's extremely passionate about it.
He collects them,
Yes, exactly. Well, he just kept blowing me off. And so finally he started looking into it at the end or the middle of last year. And our family investment meetings, every Friday morning, Jacob, Jay, and I would have investment meetings together to go over different ideas. And when Jay started bringing back all the research about renting out trailers and he started doing it, I mean, and it is crazy how successful it has been already. So then he threw his tractor in there, and it's going really well. So Jacob was like, you know what? I'm going to build a platform like Airbnb that can bring consumers who own trailers onto the platform and connect them with people who need to rent the trailers. And it's called Trailer.
It's got a very unique name. But luckily, that says he's on the forefront of this because that is available, which is awesome.
It is. And so Jay's been highly successful in he had 3 just yesterday.
Yeah.
And maybe 2 more today. He was up this morning meeting someone this morning with one. So it is working. There is a definite need there. And so Jacob has built out everything. The platform is live. And we're super excited to see where he's taking it.
Man, that's so awesome. I'm super excited for him. I'll link it in this episode. But I was thinking about it. He reached out to me because I think he thinks I have trailers. I do not. I do flip houses, so he was maybe thinking that I did. But I don't have one, honestly, because my house location, it just doesn't provide the space.
Right.
I could actually use one.
Yes.
But it just doesn't provide the space.
Right.
And I probably honestly
need to rent one.
Yeah, I probably need to rent one. I don't use it enough, so I will borrow a friend's. I've got a buddy who's got one, but a lot of people don't have a buddy. Or
right.
The trailer he has is really big.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to be hauling that one around all the time. So I think it's incredible. It's going to be super exciting how it takes off. And the scalability of it is just, it can go nationwide, worldwide.
Right. And I think what he was connecting you with is because Gracie went to your last meeting, investors meeting, and she said that she was having lots of conversations, and people there either new and flipping didn't have trailers and could use them, but didn't have a need to buy one. And then there were a bunch of people there that were experienced flippers and investors that all had them.
Yeah.
And so she recommended that Jacob sponsor an evening.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
So that he could share the platform with everyone. So and we're all connected. We're here to help each other, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
I love it. All right. So we kind of digressed on the Birmingham market update, but listings. Yeah, I think it's significant. We'll go into sub-markets. I think some of that supply is coming from new construction, not a ton, but some of that in the pockets of Alabaster, Helena. I know that there's some of that going on there. Sold. So 2023 was 1,471, and 2024 was 1,530. So it's a 4% increase in solds. Which is interesting because a lot of the solds come from the March inventory, and the March inventory was down, so maybe it's like the trickling. So that's good. Medium sales price. This was interesting. $274K in 2023, $276K in 2024. Only a 0.4% increase.
That's interesting.
It's very interesting, but we'll dive into the submarkets, and the submarkets are strong. So I'm not really sure where that number comes from. And I'll be honest, like when I see really significant shifts, I typically don't pay too much attention until it's like 2 or 3 months ongoing. So the previous month medium was 4.37, which is typical appreciation that we've seen in this market. Goes back to our stability.
Right.
So do you have any thoughts to that, or is that kind of an anomaly for you too, why that number is so low?
I'm actually surprised by that. So thank you for doing the research so that I can see it. I get so hyper-focused on pricing one piece of property.
Right.
And I love to do that. Pricing is one of my favorite things. It's one of my superpowers. So I'm actually surprised by that.
Flying. Pricing real estate and also saving the world. I don't know.
No. There's no hope.
Oh man.
I would think that because of the massive appreciation that number would have been a lot higher than from last year.
Yeah, and we'll go into the submarket. I started doing this several months ago, the submarkets, and it's helped give me a gauge. I've kind of grouped them into like price points, not necessarily areas, if that makes sense. So like, stuff that's like sub 100K, sub, 200K, stuff that's kind of in 3. So, but let's keep going. List to sales price in April was basically 0.34% difference. So in the past, we've seen that kind of shift and move. Basically, we're seeing that prices are kind of coming up a little bit, and people are not conceding quite as much. So it could be the inventory increase, more quality inventory.
I really have not seen the quality in inventory.
Yeah.
I have seen the crap in inventory.
Okay.
So, and that's what actually has been frustrating. So more people are putting their houses on the market and doing nothing with them. And I still think that comes from a sense of we don't have to do anything in this market.
Yeah.
And buyers are like, pass.
Yeah. Yeah. If I'm paying 8%, if I'm paying 7%,
Yes.
I want something a little nicer.
Yeah. And because, I mean, really, consumers today only look at payments. So, I could have bought this house last year at this payment. Now, the same house is this much more payment. And, I'm scraping to make this payment.
Right.
It better not even need paint.
Right.
And a seller's like, come on.
Yeah.
Just needs paint. That's a personal thing. It can be a very expensive personal thing. I've got a 1,300 square foot house right now. I mean, the paint job on that is probably going to be close to $6,000.
Wow.
If you do it the right way and have a professional come in and do that. So, I mean, I don't want to pay super high payments and also have to pay $6,000 to make it the way that I want it. So sellers, I think, are not taking those things seriously on what a buyer's going to have to do.
Yeah. And building it in like we're going to go ahead and paint it a neutral color.
Right.
And that way it can be effectively like maybe we list it a little higher, but then it's built into the loan.
Right.
Rather than have to be like, can we get a paint concession? Because you may need a concession on an HVAC.
Yes.
And you can't have both because you can only have so much or else you're in construction loan territory.
You're right. Yeah,
So,
you're right.
That's a significant, I love that you pointed that out. And I would agree that the stuff that is done well is flying off the shelves.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. With multiple offers and extreme multiple offers. So we got one of our agents, I don't know if you saw in our Facebook group, bless him, he was making offers for himself throughout Vestavia and Hoover. And, he was like, 20 offers came in on this house, 14 came in on another one. And it was going like 50,000 over asking every time with cash. And he's like, I can't even compete. So you do have that part of the market as well. If it's in a really good location and you have done the updates, you have, presenting it well and packaging it well, you're still flying off the shelf.
Yeah.
If you are not doing that and you're pushing your price too high, then it's sitting longer.
Yeah, man, it's so true. And that's where, we look at stats and some of these get so skewed because there's a few that are sitting out there forever. Because they're just poorly marketed, poorly fixed up or whatever.
One of the things, too, that I've really noticed, Todd, is the agents as a whole, and I love you all, are not putting effort into marketing properties. And I don't know if that comes off from where we didn't have to.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know. Could it be partially? I think, I had this thought the other day because things have slowed a little bit for me. I'm still moving. Property's still doing a lot of business.
It's slowed for everyone, by the way.
Yeah. That's just
as
the general.
A whole.
But, I mean, there was one time when it was really going crazy. I had 50 listings. Or it was like 45 listings, like at one time. It was just, it was just insane.
You can handle it because it's listings.
Yeah, and it's listings, and it's, the place I play in is a little bit more some investments,
right.
different things like that. But all that to say is like, I was running at such a pace that I was doing the best I could, but like things just, when you have that much inventory, you're just doing the best you can to keep up. And now that we've kind of pulled back, I have more time and I am doing more. I mean, I'm about to, after this podcast, I'm going to go over to a listing. I might actually clean it up a little bit before photos get done because it needs it. And that's what the property requires. And I'm trying to get it to market. So,
well, I think you just said a key word. Doing the extras. I think you just said one of the key words before photos get done. We're seeing a lot of people skipping that step. And I think that's because agents they don't have any money.
Yeah.
And they're not having the conversations with their sellers. And the sellers are assuming, of course, who doesn't do professional photos.
Right.
And so we're seeing some poorly packaged product out there. Really poorly. And I feel so bad for the sellers because they deserve that extra effort.
Well, it goes back to in any market, you got to find the people who are the best. and you happen to be one. I think I'm one. We have a network of really, really great agents, and
We do. And there's so many good to choose
Yeah.
from. Like
Yeah.
sellers have really great choices and options.
yeah, you just got to find them.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so medium days on market, 9 to 10. So not a crazy shift there. You could go to the percentage, but it's an extra day. Let's go into the submarkets. So first off would be Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and Homewood. I kind of group those in because those are more higher end neighborhoods that are central to Birmingham. Listed in 2023 was 187. In 2024 was 178. So in a market that is 15, almost 16% higher, in this pocket, we're negative 4.8%.
Those people aren't going anywhere.
They're like,
They're
where am I
latched
going
on.
to move?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I mean, where else are you going to buy? They're kind of landlocked. They're not growing. And so the inventory is the inventory, and prices continue to appreciate. So we're going to go to medium sales price, or we'll go solds, 113 in 2023, 114 in 2024. So not much of a shift there. But the medium sales price, you ready for this? $575,000 in 2023, $640 in 2024.
Okay. That makes sense.
Exactly.
That-
That's back to our appreciation.
That makes sense.
We're at 11.3% appreciation.
Okay.
And the month before we were at 7.5. So, or 7.45.
So April and May are the biggest closing months every year.
Yeah.
And people actually do everything they can to get their houses ready April and May. Because in Birmingham, the closings can happen in June, but pretty much the place shuts down in June and July.
Yeah.
We have hardly any closings in July. It's rare. That's always a super low month.
Yeah.
And this has been true of a typical market. We are back to a typical market.
Right.
Because we couldn't make sense of anything COVID.
Yeah, it's the Wild West. Well, when you have the
Right.
rates where they were, people, and the inventory was where it was at, you were just trying to figure it out. Any
Yes.
time of the year, you were just
Right.
trying to figure it out. When all the cards fell in place, then you pulled the trigger.
Also, on this submarket, what we don't see in your numbers are the off markets.
That's so good.
This is a heavy off market area because friends know friends and they're trying to, a lot of stuff sells by word of mouth.
Yes.
So it's, that's a submarket within the submarket.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I've never brought that up, but there's a lot of where, if you have a neighbor, friend, if you have a friend who also wants to get into Homewood or Mountain Brook, you just start talking to your neighbors and saying, I've got someone looking. Or, good agents they've got people pocket listing buyers almost.
Right.
And they're just like, because they're like willing to pay whatever it takes because they just want to get into these pockets. It's so hard to
Yes,
get in there.
It is. It really is so hard. And if you do go to market, which actually is better for you as a seller, going to market is better than selling it off market. But some people just don't want to deal with the showings and all of that mess. But you're going to get a better return if you go to market because you want those multiple offers. You want an agent who will just negotiate the crap out of it for you.
Yeah.
I toned it down for you.
This is PG podcast. I try to keep it clean, Jenny.
But you are so good when you buy in those markets because you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You can always overpay for some stuff, but you're paying for that location.
What's interesting, you say you can overpay, and I don't disagree. You can overpay. But over
I have
the
one in my
long
mind
run,
right now of somebody who totally overpaid.
in the long run, though, the appreciation will catch up.
It will.
I'm not saying that's a good strategy,
Right.
but sometimes, like, some people are just like, this is what I want. This is the house I want in the area I want. Write the check.
Also,
Stupid money.
This submarket, though, is very much with that mindset.
Yeah.
They are not afraid to overpay because they're probably going to be there for a long time.
Yeah. Very long
They're
time.
just trying to get in, and it really doesn't matter. They understand. And, people with a certain income, they want what they want, and it really doesn't matter about the return.
Right.
And I'm fine with that, but I had to get over that. I had to get over, like, do you really want to do this? Like, this doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah.
And who am I? Shut up. Let them have what they want and go get it.
Yeah. Well, it comes down to, in certain price points, there's a lot of people who they're making their money and their investments and all that in a different area.
Right.
At the
and
end
a
of the
home
day,
is
and
different.
this is their home.
Yes.
They're not looking at it as a long-term investment strategy because they have all that other places. This is the lifestyle that they're choosing.
Right.
So, all right. So let's continue on. The average days on market, medium days on market, three days. So it's clear that that's a strong market. Moving over to Pelham, Helena, and Alabaster, and this is the area where I think we have a lot of new construction.
Yes, but let me say one thing.
Yeah.
That number tells you. That number 3. That means if you've gone past 3 days and your house has not sold in those areas, you're overpriced.
Yes.
The market has determined that for you. And if you're a seller listening to this or watching this, then you have to know it's not 30 days that you hang on. It's 3.
Yeah.
And because that information is so automatic and it goes out to everybody, the buyers that have not come in 3 days have said, I'm just going to wait till they get reasonable.
Yeah. They've looked at everything.
Yep.
I think buyers, especially ones who see it in the first couple days, are your best indicator because if they've seen it in the first couple days, they are looking actively and aggressively.
Yes.
And that means that they have seen pretty much anything that hits the market because they want to buy a house.
Right.
And thus, if they pass, there may be some quirk that didn't work for their family situation and stuff, but more often than not, it means that it's overpriced or not a good product.
Well, and we have to, we can't change human nature, right? And
we can't. That's such a bummer.
I know, right? But I really want to.
Yeah, right.
And so much of the mentality of a seller is, well, this is what I feel like it's worth because of what I've got to do at the new house or my new situation, and has nothing to do with what the market is driving. And they can always come in and make an offer. You see, every single buyer has been used to the past couple of years paying way over the asking price, right? So they're not going to do a lower offer to insult anybody. Yeah. They're not going to do it.
Yeah.
So if you have that mindset of, well, I'm going to price it up here, even though the market says it's, a little too high. Mm-hmm. Everybody's been, there's not much for sale, and, all the properties have been flying off the shelf, and they can just always make me an offer. We as humans right now with that, our mentality as a buyer it's too insulting. I'm not even going to make you an offer.
Yeah.
Even a 10,000 below asking, a lot of people will feel that's insulting. Then you've got your other people, your 1 out of 100 that are like, offer them 75,000 below asking, right? Which will totally insult. Even though a seller said, we'll list high and they can always make an offer. They're so offended by that.
I've also thought too, it's funny because in certain price points, it's a ratio. Like I've gotten offers and I'm like, the number doesn't sound too crazy, but it's literally like a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
I'm like, this doesn't work.
Well, in your world too, with so many investors.
I know. It's just crazy. But, okay. So going back to, we're negative in Vestavia, overall positive in the market. So that's got to come from somewhere. And I think we're seeing that in Pelham, Helena, Alabaster. So 2023, 128 houses were being sold. 2024, we're at 175. So 36% increase. There is inventory coming from new construction. Mm-hmm. I know that. But is there other inventory coming online in those pockets because of other reasons, do you think? Or
Well, we did have a lot of inventory come online because of flooding.
Okay.
We had areas
Explain that.
flood in Pelham.
Okay.
And so a bunch of inventory came available in those areas. People were like, the investors that own those properties, I'm out. There was a lot of that.
Okay.
But
When did that flooding happen?
I think year before last.
Okay.
I think I had
Gotcha.
but also when working with buyers for forever, right?
Yeah.
When people could sit down with you, they always say, I want Vestavia or Hoover, right? This is a very common thing.
Yeah.
But their budget is only going to allow Pelham, Helena, or Alabaster.
Right.
So it pushes people out. Even Calera.
Yeah.
Like it pushes people out. So we actually had a flip in January in Alabaster. And it's more affordable. You're just going to have to drive a lot longer.
Yeah.
So
You can
this
get some
actually
great
makes sense to me.
houses. And also Alabaster's Thompson High School, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which has become a juggernaut in the football world
Oh, yeah.
/ sports world. So that's becoming very popular. I've had a few listings in Alabaster.
Alabaster
and they
is
just
like
fly off the shelf.
the people who are running the city are doing a fabulous job, in my opinion. They're making it easier for businesses to thrive there. They're attracting businesses.
Yeah.
They've done a really great job of building a desirable area to live in. When I first got here, that was not the case.
Yeah. New people.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes a difference. Solds in 2023 was 108 and in 2024 was 99. So negative on 8% on solds. I think obviously with the inventory increase, well, going back, actually, our inventory increase in March was only 3%. So there's a significant, so I think solds will dramatically increase.
They will.
This next month.
Well, and that goes back to everybody finally got their house on the market for April.
Exactly. List to sales price or medium sales price, $308,000, and 2024 it jumped up to $349,000. So 13.15% increase.
Wow.
Back up to, not what the overall stat of the market. And I did not break into where, because all of these percentages, actually, Hoover and Trussville is in negative, which is really surprising me. So that's where some of that negative is coming from. And I don't know why, because you would think that would be an appreciating market.
Yeah.
So maybe double check those stats, because that's very odd. But we'll finish up Pelham and Helena Alabaster with a medium days on market, 7. In 2024, it's 9. So they're staying a little bit longer, but not a crazy amount. Definitely not 3 days.
Right.
But it goes back. I like what you said. I thought of that. I honestly haven't thought of it in the context of like pulling days on market and telling a seller like, hey, our medium sales on this area is this. If we are past that date, it probably means that we're overpriced or not, appropriately staged or whatever it is. We need to have a conversation. Are you open to conversations around that time?
So
rather than just say the typical 30 days.
Yes. So how I prefer to handle that is having that conversation at the listing table. Mm-hmm. Like when we go to put this house on the market and we talk about pricing, I need to set that expectation right there. Like if we've gone 3 days, Todd, then we overshot.
Yeah.
We missed the market a little bit, but we can correct. But we got to do it after 3 days.
Yeah.
We might want to give it 5. 7 is too long. We're stale.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody does. If we've been on the market 7 days, even if it's Helena, we're there at 9, right? Then people are starting to ask the question, well, what's wrong with it?
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Well, and I'll have to tell you that because of rates on the affordable houses that I've listed lately, we've not had many showings at all. I went live on a new flip for $259 in Chelsea yesterday. I don't even have one appointment on it yet.
Wow.
I just sold a house in Helena for $279, had 4 showings on it.
Wow.
That's
it's the cost.
Extremely telling.
Yeah.
Extremely telling.
Yeah.
Now, granted, throw one in Vestavia, right? We already talked about those numbers. You're going, and especially if it's a great one. I just closed on one last month, and I think we had 21 people through in like 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
So, people are waiting for the right location to come up.
Yeah, that is interesting. Hoover and Trussville. So we've got 2023, we got 221 listings, and 2024 it's 264, which is a 19.46% increase. So significant inventory coming online. Solds was 148, and in 2024 is 162. So almost a 10% increase there. Medium sales price, 422,000 in 2023. 418 in 2024. That is actually a negative 1.02%. So I'm really not sure where that's coming from. It's kind of surprising that Hoover and Trussville would be in the negatives.
You probably have a lot more inexpensive houses that have come on the market this year.
Yeah.
Is what I'm.
Do you think some of that would be inexpensive, like the sub 400 that's new construction in those pockets potentially? Because you still have some new construction happening in Hoover. Mm-hmm. That's going to be sub 400.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably that, because we are positive 20% in inventory. So maybe similar to
which is a big number.
It's a significant number, and I like that breakdown. That's probably what happened, because Helena, Alabaster, the same thing, but they have less. I mean, their top is 350 versus this top is 420. So given that fact, they're not bringing a bunch of $450,000 new construction homes in Hoover. They're more in the probably 300, 350 range is my guess. So, but medium days on market is 4 and 4. So we're not seeing a lot of appreciation, maybe because of that new construction. But I would almost beg to say that if you were to pull out that new construction, the appreciation is there if the days on market is 4 and 4.
Yeah, I would agree.
I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
It's stuff that is quality, that's been flipped, whatever. We could call it Matthew Gregory right now and be like, hey, your house is in Hoover and Trussville selling? He'd be like, yep, they are.
Of course they are.
So it is funny to look at the stats. And like I said, that's why I go back to like weird things that pop up like that. If I see a trend and I'm like 3-4 months in, and I'm like, okay, something's happening here. Let's dig into why. But this one I think is a one-off. So
I'm actually going to look at a house in Trussville tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, he just wants to sell it, so I'm going to go over to see what I can make an offer on it for him.
Yeah, hopefully you pick it up. Would you guys buy it for yourself, or would you maybe take it to Mark? That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get it.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Now, whenever somebody calls me to do that, it actually was a referral from another one of our agents. I give them the whole scenario. Like, hey, you know what? If you just did these things, we could put it on the market and do this. Yeah. If you did maximum, you could get this. But if you just want to walk away because you don't want to mess with any of it and it's so overwhelming, then we'll pay this. So you've got options.
Yeah. Give everybody the platter of things and then go from there. So,
well, I just feel like, it's a weird thing for an investor to go in and buy your own listings. But my fiduciary duty to a consumer comes first to me.
Yeah, 100%.
And so it's not about us when I walk in that door. I think, okay, what are the opportunities here for this person, and what they have here is their asset.
Yeah.
Now, if you want me to take it away, this is what I can do. And then I always spell it out like, this is where we're going to spend the money. This is what we'll end up selling it at. And this is how much we'll actually end up making before taxes. And sadly, it's usually not that much.
Yeah. Yeah. Holding costs are expensive. Construction costs. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot for sure.
Well, everything's going to need carpet flooring and paint, right? So that can be a lot of money just right out of the gate. Everything needs that.
Well, and if you're flipping a house, properly, you're also looking at the major systems of the house. A lot of flippers do not, unfortunately. Not all
sadly.
flippers are created equal.
Right.
But I know that you and Jay, when you guys do a house, you make sure those systems are sound as well. And
Yes.
that can be pricey.
It can. A lot of roofs we put on.
Yep.
Because you just have to. I have a listing right now where the HVAC is 25 years old, and buyers freak out about that.
Yeah.
The home inspection says operable, it's working, but the offer that I got said I need an $8,000 reduction because the HVAC is old. But it's working.
Right. They see it as a ticking time bomb.
Right. And it is.
Yeah.
It's going to go out.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time.
It is.
But the thing is, what they replace it with will go out much sooner.
Well, you say that, and I was thinking about that. Like my house, I've got a Train, very reputable company.
Right.
It is older, but it's still ticking away.
I know. Don't touch it.
I'm not going to. Like I don't think I have. I think I've had to top off the Freon, so there's probably a very small leak.
Yeah.
Which is the beginning of the end.
Right.
But I'm still like, I'm not touching it until it's truly dead because, like I said, the quality of what you replace it with and some of the Freon stuff they're playing with now, it's just a little bit of, just one of those things that I if your older system is working, I say keep it personally.
Yes.
But-
Well, I mean, there aren't many people that go, oh, well, the HVAC is getting a little old. I think I need to replace it. No, nobody does that.
Is it working?
They only replace it when it's 4th of July.
Yeah.
They have pregnant guests staying in their house and the air is completely gone.
Isn't that the truth? All right, let's move on to Adamsville, Centerpoint, Roebuck, Graysville.
And this would be interesting for me to hear.
Yeah, so listings in 2023, 125, 2024, 127. So
I feel like there's so much more for sale over there, though.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a lot of new construction happening in those pockets. And I think you go back to, we keep referencing Helena, Alabaster Pelham, that's where the new inventory's coming online. New inventory's coming online in Hoover. I don't see, retail's decent in those pockets, but it's just not as, as demand, in my opinion, as some of those other areas.
Right.
So I think that's probably a new construction thing. Things are ticking away, but solds in 2023 was 92, 2024 93. And so medium sales price 2023 was 150,000, 2024 175. So significant appreciation. Which is interesting. So even though the numbers are consistent, we're seeing the appreciation, the prices rise. So days on market, medium days on market, 17 in 2023, and in 2024 it's 16. So it's, a negative, but not by much.
Well, you see, there's stuff stays on the market longer.
Stuff does. I've had several listings over there that have sat. And part of it was because of incorrect pricing, and I tried to help people understand, like, hey, we're going to market. And I always think it's funny, like, to be honest, when I'm like, here's your suggested range. I never say listed at this price, but I give them a range.
Sure.
And they're like, I like that, but I'd like to be at the top of that range. And I say, if we list at the top of this range, it's probably going to sit, a month or two, maybe even 3. If we list at the bottom, we're probably going to get a contract in about a month is what the market's telling me. And they're like, I think we want to go top of the range. So we list the top of the range. I'm like, you're the boss. I'll do it. And then they're calling me 2 weeks in. How come we don't have a contract? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, let's go back to our previous discussion. You priced it according to get a contract in a longer timeline. You really have to find a buyer who loves that property and is willing to pay that higher price because of some little thing about that property that ticks a box for just them.
Right.
You just got to wait for it. So anyway, all that to say is I had a listing. We priced it high. We had to do several reductions. Finally got it under contract. Just sold it 2 weeks ago. Great for the seller. Ended up being great for buyer and all of that. But it's sad because we priced it higher in a market that kind of demands you price it correctly, in my opinion. Days on market's telling you that.
Yes, it is. So I've got a question. Was the ultimate sales price in line with where you actually suggested?
Yes, it was, but not the concessions, because there was a couple variables that we had to concede on because of just condition of property. But the actual contract price, yes, was at the bottom of where I said it should be.
Somebody knew what they were doing. I'm just saying, there is a reason.
Well, I take
hire.
after you, you know.
I just had to ask.
Just had to ask. So, but overall, let's talk about, just as we recap this section, overall, let's talk about market health. We are seeing still low inventory. Mm-hmm. We are seeing poor product out there and the good product fly off the shelf. Anything else you can comment or bring insight into the deals that you've seen and kind of what the market's doing?
I have seen the over 800 market be a lot slower.
Yeah.
Even with really fantastic product. So I think if you've got something that isn't $1 million or over $1 million, that you do have to be careful to price it appropriately. I'm watching a few right now, and we've had in the North Shelby County area, I've been really taking a look at inventory and what's actually been selling. And I ran some numbers last night. We've had 12 waterfront homes sell in North Shelby County year to date. And pricing is all over the board, but I find a lot of that very interesting. If I have $1 million to spend right now in North Shelby County, I think I've got over 40 choices.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's huge.
And so is inventory just sitting because they're asking too much?
I think, okay, and it is absolutely possible. Most people won't believe this. It's absolutely possible for a whole neighborhood to be overpriced and a whole area to be overpriced. It's very possible.
Well, is it because you could have a market shift in just the government system, someone new mayor, or there's some issue with construction or some environmental issue, or are you seeing it from other places of just it was overpriced in demand during COVID and now that demand is pulled back, or what? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Right now, I feel it's super important to price according to what's on the market. Mm-hmm. Yes, we need to take a look at the comps and, all the other data and, the numbers, but what does a buyer have to choose from right now?
Yeah.
That's going to push it up or it's going to push it way down.
Yeah. That's good. And I was talking with Bruce Glenn, and he was
great.
he's great. And he was just saying, this is unpopular opinion, but oftentimes what the house value is what someone's willing to pay for it.
Well, and that's, yes, that's so true.
They're looking at everything and they're saying, I don't want to buy at these prices. And they won't, so.
Yeah, I can make a case all day long for a certain number for a house, but if it doesn't appeal. Yeah. Then people are not going to spend the money on it.
So jumbo loans start at $500K, right? Is that where
higher.
Jumbo's? It's higher now.
Isn't it higher?
I don't. that's what I'm. I should know, higher. But I don't know. I need to. I wish I was buying more $1 million homes, but
you know what I do in that case? Hey.
Talk to your mortgage.
Yeah. Hey, what is today on a jumbo? Yeah. And what's funny, my friends, my trusted lenders, have cracked me up lately. Two of them this week have said, oh God, it's been so long since I've even looked at a jumbo, which is very telling.
Yeah.
I don't even know off the top of my head because I haven't even looked at them in a long time. You haven't done them.
Yeah. But they're I'm just saying that because there's a price up until that price point you can conventionally fund, but on top of that, you have to create this jumbo loan, and maybe the products out there for these jumbo loans are going crazy. I don't know.
Well, what it is, it's a HELOC. So you can do an 80-15-5.
Okay, gotcha.
So whenever you've got your down payment, right, then the second mortgage is going to be a HELOC that you put in place the moment you buy it.
Interesting.
And those are high.
They are high. So that differential is making it less. So going back to good product, if you saw $1 million house that's fully flipped, all nice finishes, done well, do you think that's still flying off the market?
No.
Okay. Interesting.
No, I'm watching them right now.
They're just
I'm
chilling.
watching dueling. One's at 1.3 across the street from a 1.7, and I'm watching it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
I know.
All right, so shift gears with me, if you would,
Yeah.
and I want you to bring in some of your insight. The world of real estate is shifting for agents and for buyers and sellers, and there's lots of, settlements and they did this and pricing and all this kind of stuff. Let's break down a little bit of what this means for a buyer, what this means for a seller, what this means for agents, because I know that you've seen a lot of market shifts, and I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there, and would like to kind of fix that and correct that and bring some clarity.
And I do think that it's very sad state of journalism these days, because the headlines, and I understand they're trying to compete with so much attention out there, but the headlines are just so wrong.
Yeah.
And you just have to go to the right source to check it out. And if you're interested in knowing the up to date every second about the NAR settlement, best practices and new rules and the changes, then you can go to facts.realtor, and it's got, hey, these are the changes.
Right.
But a consumer is not going to really know, what all this means.
Right.
A consumer is going to be very confused about a lot of this, mainly because of the headlines, and then secondly because really three reasons. We're going to be confused about it.
Yeah. Well, they're still changing. They're still finalizing.
Yes.
And they're still shifting.
Right. So it's still speculative.
Yeah.
Right. It's very speculative. And the third thing is because some things are going to be okay without signing a buyer agency compensation agreement, and some things are not. So I think it's going to cause a lot of mistrust between the consumer and us until everybody can wrap their head around it. So here are the changes that we're going to have to be doing. And before a buyer can walk in to see a home through any threshold, right, they have to sign a buyer compensation agreement, meaning I have to hire you as an agent if I want representation, and we've got to negotiate what your fee is going to be. Okay, I am going to be responsible for paying you for that representation, but your fiduciary duty to me, Todd, is to see that you get that negotiated in, so I don't have to write a check at closing, or I have to write a reduced check at closing. So we kind of always been doing that. I know I have for over 20 years. But now what we had gotten into in the past is, hey, this is a normal conversation for an agent. Hey, the seller is going to pay that, so you don't have to worry about it. And we'll usually put zero in for how much the commission is, which is actually wrong. We've been doing it the wrong way. There should always be a fee, but me representing you as your buyer's agent, I have a certain fee that I make when I go to work, period.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to work extra hard for you to get that covered so you don't have to come at closing with additional monies. But if that doesn't work out, you are expected to pay. More than likely, we're going to be right back at the same spot that we are right now with just more paperwork.
I would agree. And I think too, every every situation, the free market will figure out itself.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is one of the most significant decisions you will make in your life. And why would you want to go into that unrepresented by a professional who understands the nuances of walking you through an inspection report and showing you, hey, I've seen this hiccup in 5 other houses. Let's really focus in on negotiating and getting this fixed. The other stuff is fine. You need a professional on your side walking you through that, so you need to sign that buyer's agreement and figure out that. On the seller side, a lot of sellers are like saying, great, I don't have to pay buyer's commissions. And that's just a misnomer too, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be competitive with the overall market because people cannot work for free.
Right. Okay. So let's be completely transparent here. Based on the numbers that you just showed, and I'm sorry, I get super passionate about this.
No, that's good. That's why I brought you in. That's why we're talking about it.
I know. So, okay. I know my value as a buyer's agent. I know the value I bring. A consumer may not feel the same way until they know. You have to be doing buyer consultations and really mapping out and showing your value to the buyer and what they're paying for, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to think that they can go straight to the listing agent and that they can get a better buy. Consumers have been thinking this anyway for the past couple of years.
Right.
I've talked to a lot of them. I immediately cut them off and walk away because I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm just going to say I'm not working with you.
Yeah, it's not the right relationship.
Right. So I'm going to actually pursue something else that's going to be more helpful for my seller because what that consumer is saying, oh, I know you will reduce your fee in order to get it sold, so I'm coming straight to you.
Right.
Well, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah.
So I want you to find a different house.
Yeah.
But more and more people are going to think that by going straight to the listing agent, they're going to save. So the DOJ wants us to decouple the commission overall, right? So whenever we go to list a house, we have normally said this is the fee for listing. And don't worry, my company will cover the buyer broker's fee. We'll share a percentage.
Right.
And it's not always half, but a lot of times it is. And now they want us to say, okay, for listing the house and handling all things to list the house, this is the fee.
Right.
And now for what are we going to offer the buyer's agent or the buyer broker?
Right.
And we have to have that in the agreement. So that is the change. And I've heard mostly from sellers that have called me to say, what's going on? What's the real deal? I don't believe the headlines. What's the deal?
Right.
And I said, well, you don't have to offer anything, but you've never had to offer anything.
Yeah.
That's never been a change.
It's always been negotiable. But if you want to bring a buyer, a good buyer, and be the most competitive to the most amount of buyers.
Yes.
Not every buyer has a ton of money. They're barely bringing enough it's enough for them to save the 5% or 3.5% if they're FHA. That's like maxing out their budget.
Right.
I mean, you remember when you were starting out, $10,000 was like a mountain to climb.
$10,000 is a mountain today sometimes.
Right. So when you don't compensate that buyer's agent who's representing, we'll say even if they're representing 50% of the buyers, you're effectively knocking out 50% of the potential people who could come in and make a great offer on your home.
90% of all houses sold are represented by a buyer broker.
Yeah.
So it's potentially more than 50% that you're knocking out. So, but on the other side, okay, well, let me back up just a second. So sellers that have reached out to me said, why in the world would I not offer a buyer broker commission? Why would I cut my buyer pull down so much? That's ridiculous. So I'm like, okay, you're one of the smart ones.
Yeah.
That's why you're one of my clients. I love you. But now let's go back to your market research.
Yeah.
If you're in one of those submarkets that we just discussed, you're probably going to get away with offering zero. And I'm just being honest with that. And
well, some of these, like we talked about, some of these off-market deals are getting brokered that way.
yes,
You know, there's an agent, or they maybe they're going face to face and they don't even have an agent
Right.
involved, which happens.
it does.
Or
then nobody knows what to do.
yeah. Or on the flip side, if there is an agent involved, they're brokering both sides of the deal, off market.
Yes.
Which happens.
It does. It does. So realistically, there are some people out there that could get away with offering zero.
Yeah.
Because in those markets, if they've got a location, people will scratch and claw to get in there. And they also have the discretionary income and savings, right, to cover their down payment, to cover their own closing costs, and to cover thousands of dollars in a commission.
Right.
So there's a possibility we're going to see increases in those markets. But I feel like if you're in any other market and you don't offer it, then you just had a listing agent that did not explain what's in your best interest.
Correct. And I would say even in those sub-markets, the money is coming from somewhere. So, you know, yes, I might bend a little bit, but if I'm offering a buyer's agent some kind of compensation to represent me, it still goes my bottom line. Like, and so I may not offer my full price. Like, the money's coming from somewhere at the end of the day.
Right.
But I agree there's a subset of deals that will happen slightly different from what was done before. But I think they kind of were happening anyway that way.
Yeah,
like
no,
we talked
I agree.
about, you know,
yeah, so
like,
it's really not that many changes, just more paperwork. Here's where the confusion is going to come in with a lot of consumers. We already talked about going directly. You know, that's going to be a misconception that they're
Right.
going to save a ton of money.
right.
The next is going to be, if you walk into an open house, you don't have to sign a buyer compensation agreement, okay? So they could actually be going to open houses, seeing houses all the time, and then when they call me on the sign to see the house, they have to sign a buyer compensation agreement with me to see the house. I cannot show it to them without that. And they're going to think that I am lying to them because they've been to
all
new
these
constructions. And they've been to open houses, and they're going to tell me, well, nobody else has asked me to do this.
Which is
And
confusing because
it
it's like, why
is.
do I have to do it here and not here?
Correct.
Yeah.
But we did have this, and Beth Carroll reminded me of this yesterday. We had the same situation when RECAD first came out, the brokerage disclosure form, and people were like, nobody else has asked me to do that, because we have to have that signed, and that's part of state law and has been for years.
Yeah.
We have to have that signed before we have a confidential conversation with anyone and or go into a house.
Yeah.
And agents, even though it's state law, agents have backed away from getting it done before that first conversation.
Yeah.
And now when people are doing it the right way, you know, consumers are like, whoa, nobody's ever asked me to sign that. It's not a contract. It's just a disclosure. The state wants you to know how you can be represented so you can protect yourself.
Right.
And, you know, the same kind of pushback. So we're going to see a lot of pushback until the word gets out more about those changes.
I thought it also interesting, the enforcement of it is like basically the MLS.
I know.
Which is a little bit of a, you know, I don't know if that's the best agency to enforce or to regulate and all that, but
it's almost like they're punishing the MLSs. But seriously, how are they going to monitor 5,000, 6,000 agents right here?
Yeah.
Making sure that they have all this done correctly.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more work on us because we have to, and Tuscaloosa started this in January, and they're fine.
Yeah.
It has not stopped anything. Everything is going well there. But since we don't have the compensation that is being offered in MLS for us, we have to, let's say, okay, when I had people here from Phoenix shopping, we saw like, I don't know, 12 houses maybe. I don't know, 7, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
I would have to call every single one of those agents, which... why don't you try getting them on the phone? and asking if there is a commission.
Yeah.
And because I've already signed a buyer compensation agreement, right? I've got that
So you
negotiated.
got to figure out that second piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now I need to know what's being offered, because if there's one at, let's say they're offering 1% or they're offering 0% and mine is for a lot more, then I have to go to you, Todd, and say, do you want to even see this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's going to be up to you. Like,
Or we're going to have to negotiate in the contract.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
And if you are, I'm down. I'm ready. But I need you to know everything before we even step through. And then I've got to get all that signed in writing if I'm doing best practices, because I don't want them to change the fee after I've gone there. So I've got to get that secured. That is a lot of steps. And I think what makes me laugh is, like, I'm hoping one of the attorneys at the DOJ will start looking for a house soon. And
They'll
like,
have to go through the steps
they're
they
going to
need.
want to go and see, like 7 or 8 houses in one day because they're relocating, and see how many of those people call you back. Say, I'm sorry, we can only see 2 of the 8 that you said you wanted to see, because the listing agents haven't called back to let me know how much is being offered.
Yeah. It feels like, in some ways, at the end of the day, I get the decoupling, but in some ways it's like we have technology. It's a step backwards of not disclosing.
So
it's silly.
Step backwards.
Yeah,
like the whole MLS was created so that we could co-op and offer commissions. Like, blows my mind. And hey, we're going to take the only thing that we were created for out of the mix.
Yeah. But I think the market will figure it out itself.
It will.
I think there'll be some adjustments, and like I said, Tuscaloosa is operating. They're figuring it out.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, every single market shift requires people to grow. And this may not be the best shift in some ways, but in some ways I think it is. And that growth is going to bring the best agents to the forefront of this industry.
I love
And that's what's
that.
so exciting. Like, we were in that meeting the other day, and I didn't want to stand up, like, because everybody's like, they were getting heated.
I know, weren't they? And I just had to let them vent. I'm like, oh my God, we're just like so off topic, but y'all are angry.
They were getting so frustrated. And I just want to stand up and say, like, what type of person are you? Like, what value do you bring to your community?
Yes.
And what value do you bring to your industry? Because I'm a person that no matter what, I'm going to work my tail off.
Yes.
And I'm going to do excellent work. And that'll show. And it will take care of itself. I don't worry about the hems and haws and the rules and all that. I just show up every day being the best version of myself, and that ends up producing great things. And so I think the agents who come with that attitude of like, it's a challenge, but I'm going to figure it out because I've figured everything else out.
Right.
That's what we do. Every time we see a repair addendum, we figure it out. We negotiate. We talk. Like, we are problem solvers. At the core of what we do, we help people solve problems. And this is just another thing that we just have to solve.
And this is not really that big of a problem.
No.
I have been negotiating with people who said they would never pay a real estate agent for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And, when it comes down to it, they normally will. They're going to be, I think, one person that was for sale by owner at one time throughout the years with all the people that I've ever worked with said, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to pay. And my client was like, well, then there's no way I'm even buying this house.
Yeah.
Right? And we found something else that was much better for them. So that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
It's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. I honestly am excited. I know that seems crazy, but like I said, every time there's a market shift or challenge, it requires us to be better. And
Yes,
and that's great.
It does. So what we're going to have to do, we can't put the buyer broker compensation on anything that is linked to an IDX feed. So it can't go on Zillow, it can't go on Realtor.com, it can't go in MLS notes or showing time or anything like that. So, but we can have separate property websites that are not IDX fed, so that we can send people to there, so they do have it in writing and can secure that.
That's perfect.
And here's something that's a little bit strange as well that we're going to start doing is whenever we write an offer for a buyer and turn that into the listing agent to be submitted, our buyer compensation agreement is going to be attached to it because that's the only way that the listing agent can do a proper net sheet.
I see. Okay. That's good to know.
So that's going to be a little bit different as well, right? So now we can write it in the contract. And here's the situation. We can actually write what the commission is being paid to our broker into the contract. We cannot use the contract to negotiate a higher fee. But we can put it in there. Now, for the lending side, to make all of that happen, we've been doing this for years. That's what just kills me. Like, oh, the lenders and the underwriters. No, y'all just word it correctly.
Yeah.
You don't even make reference to what it's for. Just say, if you end up having to add the commission to the top, and in some cases we're going to end up having to do that. We've been doing that forever. Then you will say whatever that percentage is paid to whatever broker, right? Out of sales proceeds.
Yep.
You don't say what it is and what it's for. Everybody knows. They're not dumb.
Yeah.
But you don't use the word.
It's easy.
And it's going to be okay.
But
like you just said a while ago, everybody's going to adapt because the free market's going to figure itself out. Fannie Mae's already done that.
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not going to let you be out here unrepresented.
Yeah.
So VA's going to follow. They're not going to allow that. And we're going to have so many creative things come online because whenever someone buys or sells a house, it puts over 50 people to work. Our economy is so based on real estate. They're not going to put things in place, although it does seem like the DOJ is trying their best to halt the real estate market.
Yeah. I agree. I think they're just trying to, like I said, decouple. And at the end of the day, the pathways they have chosen, we may not agree with, but I think the intent of it all is fine, and we're going to adapt, and we'll get stronger, and it's going to be great. But I'm super excited to see more inventory hit our market, still in a overall negative of the inventory. This was a little bit longer of a Birmingham market update.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
I do have one story I want to tell you.
I know. Tell the story. You're talking to me about offline. So tell me.
Okay, so you're so famous.
I'm not.
You are. So our company's corporate reached out to me and said, I need you to call this lady and give her the rundown of answer all questions about our brokerage. And I said, okay, sure, yeah. And I even had to look up like what city this was, what it was close to. And so I called her, and the phone actually picked up, and in the background I could hear a real Southern voice going, in this industry, we've got a saying called buyers or liars. And so I could hear that in the background. And I'm like, oh my God, she's actually doing some training right now, right? And then it just like totally hung up on me.
Oh, okay.
So I text, and I'm like, hey, I hear your training in the background. And,
awesome.
This is Genny Williams. And I said, I don't believe that buyers are liars, FYI. I feel like they just don't know what they really want, and our job is to help them discover that.
Yeah.
And she laughed and said, oh my gosh, I was trying to send you to voicemail and it didn't work. And and she said, I will call you back on my lunch break. And I said, okay, I'm on my way to go be on a podcast. So if I don't answer, we'll reconnect by this afternoon. And something just told me that she was going to know you. And I said, it's called Beyond Wealth. And she's like, I'm going to be on there in 2 weeks. Isn't that great? And
That's
she's like,
crazy.
oh my God, my business partner was just on there 2 weeks ago, and she sent me the episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I said, oh yeah, I cannot wait to tell him the story.
That's so funny.
Can't wait to connect with her.
It's been a fun journey. The goal of it is to just, I think we have so many great businessmen and women in this city with so much knowledge, and to sit down face to face with people like you and just learn, I just think people would pay for an hour to have a coffee with you, and how can I?
Well, let's set that
up. You're like, I'll do coffees to get paid. But, like you're busy, and, a lot of the people I sit down with, they have very busy schedules and they can't necessarily have coffee with, 60, 70, 100, 200 people.
Right. It's really hard.
But we can have this conversation, and then all the people who, hopefully, as it grows and climbs, all those people have access to that person. I mean, had Matthew Greger in here, how many people would pay just to sit down and glean from his knowledge?
Yes.
And that's the opportunity that hopefully we're creating for this community. So,
well, I hope I brought just a tiny bit.
Tons of knowledge. Tons of knowledge
of what some of your other guests have. So.
No, you brought a ton, and there's tidbits. There has been so many little moments of your market knowledge and little thoughts on buying and selling the NAR stuff that you just can't find on a blog. You can't you are in the industry day to day. And knowing that, like boots on the ground, that knowledge has been great. So thank you so much for your time. If people want to work with you, want to get a hold of you, want to pay for a coffee, how would they reach out?
Okay, so my cell number, and I am very accessible. Like you said, I'm very accessible. I do probably have over 200 unanswered texts right now, so just be patient with me. You might want to say, bump up. But it's 205-223-1044 is my cell number. And texting really is the fastest way. I have a Calendly. I've got all of that. But I respond best when you say, hey, I need you now.
Yeah.
Hey,
awesome.
Can we do this? Hey. And I'm happy to help. I'm also, we didn't talk about this, I've also been a real estate coach for many years. So I have helped people build and develop their businesses. And I have actually a new program that's 90 days long because I can make a transformation much faster in 90 days instead of getting behind this idea that coaching needs to be like a year or indefinite.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that 90-day transformation coaching if anybody wants to learn more about that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate the time, and I hope you have a great weekend, and I know we'll be talking soon
Of course.
at some point.
Well,
That's probably a problem
here.
I have. I'll be like, Jenny, help. I'll text you. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for letting me be here.